Once again, good evening, everybody. Good to see you. It's wonderful to have you here today. Before we start anything, I want to introduce a couple of people that I have with me today. I have Yoko Tanaka from Japan America Society of Iowa. You're behind me, Yoko. There you go. Okay. She's the executive director of Japan America Society of Iowa. And I have Peggy, right here, I'm pointing from Heart of America, Japan. What is it?
Heart of America, Japan America Society.
Hi, Kansas City. Yes. They are here today to hang out with me and then talk about our society and learn from each other. And we can have them at our event. So we're very happy to have them. And also, just a couple of house rules. I'm going to mute everybody. If you have a question, please send them to me via chat function. And at the end of the talk, I will ask the question to Dwight and he can answer it for us. So I will mute everybody. Just, I hope that you know. And what else? Oh, we have Mondale Gala coming up on November 4th. And we certainly would like you to come to our gala. But if you can't come to our gala, we do have silent auction online. So if it's a gift card, we will mail it to you. But other things, it will have to be just pick up only though. But we will have super fun things at our auction. So please check us out. You don't have to get ticket to participate in the auction online. So, and people who donated for this event upon registration, thank you so much. If you're not a member yet, please become a member and support our organization and build our community together. That will be wonderful. And if you know me, I have a little bit of kind of like stuffed nose, so I have a little sexy voice today. So I might record a song or something. All right. I think I did all the things that I have to do today. Yoko-san, いいですか? Hi. So I would like to just have Dwight talking to us right away. So, before that, we have friends from Marine Art, Minnesota Marine Art Museum. Yes.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Casper. I'm the curator of engagement, learning, and impact at the Minnesota Marine Art Museum. We are down in Winona, Minnesota, and we are actually, my colleague Julie Hoikeshoven is beside me. She is our programs manager, and we are in the exhibition that we are going to be hearing about tonight. So I want to make sure everyone knows they are invited down to Winona. We would love to have you visit the museum and this incredible exhibition. And if you are attending tonight's talk, we would love to extend an invitation of a 2-for-1 admission price. So typically we are $8 for adults and $10 adults, $8 seniors. So that would just be a 2-for-1. Whenever you come, you can tell the front desk, I was at the JASM virtual talk, and we'd love to have you come down and check it out. Thank you. Thanks for doing this again with us. This is fun.
Right time.
Great. Thank you. Coincidentally, actually, today, the Winona Misato Sister City delegation left Minnesota to go back to Japan, and they spent like a week in Winona, I believe, and then they spent a couple days in the city, Minneapolis, and they left. So I think they had a wonderful time, and then they were very happy with their host family. So yay, Winona. Good job. All right, now I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to have Dwight share his wonderful artwork for us. Dwight, おっさん、お願いします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。My name is Dwight Hwang. I don't know, where should I start? I've always liked art. That's all I ever wanted to do. Ever since I was a little kid, I wasn't interested in going outside, doing sports, academics. All I wanted to do was art. And so from an early age, that's really what I focused on, even though most of the time my parents were against it. But I first started as a storyboard artist. In my professional career, I was a storyboard artist for movies, for anime, animation, games, commercials, just about everything. And 7 of those years were spent in Tokyo, working at the animation studios and the live action studios over there. The only other thing that I really, really enjoyed other than art and drawing was fishing. And I was always really infatuated with fish. It's I don't know how to explain it, but like I know there's birders out there and they're really, really obsessed about going out with binoculars and taking photos of birds, and they really geek out on it. I'm basically the same thing, but the fish version of it. I go to an aquarium store or a supermarket, or I don't know, honestly anywhere. And if I see a fish, it could be something amazing or inked like small and tiny like a minnow, but it makes me happy. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But while I was in Japan, I brought all my fishing gear with me. And so in between movie gigs or after a studio meeting or something, I would take my fishing rod. I would go to the rivers all around Tokyo and I would fish. And, every once in a while I would have to go to the tackle shops to purchase more gear. And just about every tackle shop in Japan, not just Tokyo, but everywhere, you'll see Gyotaku prints all over the walls, sometimes on the ceilings. And I was so amazed by it. I thought it was the coolest thing. It kind of looks like a fossil on paper. I just immediately fell in love with it. I was never a big fan of, for example, Western taxidermy, where you stuff a fish, you skin it, and create a mold, and you put it on a wall. It's neat, but like, I don't know. I was never really interested in it. But when I saw Japanese Gyotaku prints, I was like, wow, that's a cool alternative. I would love to learn. So I asked my Japanese friends there, where can I learn how to do this? And they all sort of shook their heads and shrugged their shoulders, and they would reply to me, like, why would you want to learn that? Like, nobody in Japan does that except for little kids or really, really old salty fishermen. I was like, okay, whatever, but like, it's so cool. And so I did what any person would do today to learn something, and that was just I poured hours into YouTube, Japanese YouTube, and they all taught the same thing. You simply brush ink onto a fish and rub paper on top of that, and you get a print. You can do that. My first, I don't know, however many attempts, they didn't look very good. It just looked like black smears on paper that kind of had a silhouette of a fish. Even that I thought was cool at the time, but me being increasingly obsessed about this new hobby, like I felt obligated to keep trying, not just keep trying, but to like develop my own process or fine tune it or try to make the results better. And normally, like in the beginning, like I would create a print and I might like correct it or fix it or draw over it or whatever. But then the longer I stayed in Japan, the more I worked there. And this really shows in all different parts of Japanese society, especially the arts, I think. especially the classical arts, where, if you mess up, you do it again. You throw it away and do it again. And for example, you hear these stories of sushi chefs where all they do for the first 10 years is cook rice. And, that sounds harsh, or that sounds, yeah, I mean, it sounds harsh, but imagine how good this person is going to be at cooking rice. Like, imagine how good that rice is going to be after 10 years of doing it over and over and over and over again. And that was a big life lesson for me in Japan, where instead of trying to like fix or correct something, you just do it over. And chances are your second attempt's going to look better, and your third attempt's going to look better than that. And then after years and years of it, it's just going to, you sort of have, if a person does that, they sort of have no choice but to get better at it. And so that's something that I think that's one of the most important things I took away from my 7 years in Japan. And now, well, you know what? I should get into the history of it, I guess, if people are unfamiliar with the art form. Honestly, it wasn't really I don't think it was an art form in the beginning. The people I've talked to, there's the earliest example of it. Hey, Wes. Hello. You want to come say hi?
Yeah, sure.
My son's here. He helps me a lot. He's 10 years old, and he helps quite a bit. Yeah. So the earliest known example of Gyotaku comes from 1837, and it's in the latter part of the samurai age. And the story goes that there was a lord, there's a samurai lord, and he used to love to fish, and he would catch crucian carp, regular carp, common carp, things like that from the rivers, and he would bring them back, and either he would task his calligrapher to write down all the details that fishermen are really interested in, the weight, when they caught it, how they caught it, what they caught it on, all that stuff. And so, that there were written records of that. But then one day, instead of just writing it down, they took the same sumi ink, that you use like in shodo or sumie paintings. They took the same calligraphy ink and they brushed it onto the fish itself, and then pressed paper on top of that, and they created the first print. And it's sort of stuck ever since. Yeah, and so I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so if you go to like tackle shops, fishing stores, fishmongers, some sushi restaurants, especially in the older parts of town, like you'll see them. Now I got to backtrack because I forget where I left off. Learning the process, doing it over and over and over. I don't know if a lot of you know what Japanese apartments look like, but they're very small typically. And so my wife and I, we didn't really have a table. We had one of those, I forget what those are called. It's been a long time. In the winter, it's a table, but it's heated underneath. I mean, we would use that. We would kneel in front of that and print a fish on that, or sometimes on the floor. I'm thankful to her for entertaining this idea of mine, or this passion of mine. But this is what I did in between movies and whatnot. And then fast forward, I forget which year. It was 2000. I forget. It was 2 years after the big tsunami and the earthquake. But we went back to the States. My wife's Korean. I'm Korean American. And so we went back to the States, and I just sort of had it in my thought that like, maybe like I'll do this on the side as a way of just lining my money or my pocket for more fishing money or whatever. And 5 years ago, eventually I really got burnt out of the movie industry, and it's not that I decided. My wife suggested that I pursue Gyotaku. And when she said, "Oh, you should do Gyotaku, instead of filmmaking," I thought, "Wow, that's a really dumb idea. Like, why would I do that?" But the more and more I tried to stay in film, the more and more I got burnt out, and I didn't get to see my family, and especially my young boy. I decided that I would take the dive into Gyotaku, and I don't know, just see where that takes me. And it was pretty scary. But I just really lucky, I guess, because like as soon as we made the switch, when I say we, I mean the whole family. My wife and I, we print together in tandem, and now my son and I, we print together. We just got noticed by like all kinds of people and groups and institutions, and now like this is all I do. This is a full-time profession. I get nostalgic about the movie sets, but I don't look back, especially when I think about all the stress. Now I'm not stressed at all. It's great. I travel the world with my family, do all kinds of wonderful projects for museums, art museums, scientific institutions, hospitality. We got featured in Forbes a while back, LA Times recently. And it doesn't feel like a job. I'm just, going around having fun, creating art like I always want, that I always do. Yeah. And then Minnesota Marine Art Museum, they're actually the first museum. They're the first art museum that reached out and said, "Let's do something together." And I was so excited about that because I've worked with aquariums and natural history museums like the one in Los Angeles and the Smithsonian. But I've always wanted to get a foot into an art museum. And I wasn't really sure how. I felt like I was getting sort of, what's the word? I don't know. I was in the science community, which is great, but I wanted to broaden out to the art museums because I mean, art is where my heart is. And when they reached out, I was so excited. It did make me wonder because when they reached out and they introduced themselves as the Minnesota Marine Art Museum, my first thought was, that's strange. Minnesota's landlocked. Like, that's a strange place to put a marine art museum. But when they sent me the photos of the room that we would have the venue, I was like, wow, that's a really cool room. That's a beautiful space. And we created we didn't create all of them. We created like, I don't know, like 15 new ones, and then a bunch of other ones that I've displayed, showcased in other places. So there's 36 total at the museum. Some are fish, some are octopus, some are crustaceans. Some are, is there a bird there? No, there's a sea lion though. That was pretty neat. We printed that at the NOAA facility in San Diego. And then we have 3 people as well. I'll have to ask them to show you guys the people later, but that's a very personal project. We print people alive, not dead. I don't know if I have the stomach for that, but alive. But we look for stories, human stories with really like powerful stories to tell. And we find these individuals, or a lot of times their peers find us and they introduce us to each other. And we print their face, we lay them down just like a fish, and ink up their face, print their face, same ink. And then we recreate their hair and their bodies with things from nature that represent them and their stories the best. Or the best, I think, anyway. There's some color work as well. Gyotaku is typically done black and white with the sumi ink, and sumi ink really only comes in black. But but we work with color every once in a while as well. I sort of resisted against that just because black and white was what I saw originally, and that's, you know, it's the traditional form. That's what I fell in love with. But as I traveled around, especially in Europe, specifically in France, they just kept asking for color, and so I caved in and figured out how to print, you know, fish and whatever creatures in color, and that's been a lot of fun as well. And so there's a few pieces at the museum that are colored pieces as well. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't know. Do you have any questions?
Do you mind if I share your website so that people can see your work?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
All right. Is there any specific one that I should share or?
Oh, well, Minnesota Marine Art Museum's doing something.
Um,
If you really want to see like updated stuff,
mhm.
my Instagram account is best. If you type in my name, you should be able to find it.
Like this one? Not this website?
Oh, that's my website. But
Yeah.
yeah, there will be a link for Instagram as well if you look for it somewhere. But the Minnesota Marine Art Museum, they're walking around, looking through the exhibition. They're looking at the red octopus right now. Can you share? Are you able to share what their screen?
Hold on.
Oh, not their website, but their Heather's screen.
Oh. Okay, so hold
Sorry,
on.
I'm having a hard time unmuting myself and holding the camera. Heather is
There you
also
go.
going to get a slideshow that we have, and she'll send that link along. But in the
Can you show
meantime,
them the red octopus?
I'm just kind of walking around. Certainly, I'll come back this way here. But yeah, she's going to go get a slideshow link as well. But
So this is one of our earlier ventures into color. This was created in France, just because everywhere we went around in France, they asked if we did color. So instead of sumi ink, that's in it's diluted acrylic paint. So acrylic paint is pretty thick, but I like to dilute it, water it down so that it's the same consistency as the sumi ink. Yeah, but otherwise the process is basically the same. I brush on the pigments, whether it's black or color, and then I blend the way I would like, and then, you know, whatever is on the fish or whatever is on the creature, that's what you get. This one is a mahi mahi or dorado or dolphin fish, depending on where you're from. You'll see it swimming in the kelp, and there's little fish swimming around it amongst the kelp. Yeah. And so all the pieces just displayed at the museum. These are the larger ones. They look small on screen, but they're pretty big. You know, they're all lifted directly from the fish. I don't know if any of you have tried this process before, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. The paper will tend to smell like fish for a couple weeks. That may not be so fun, but it's just part of the process. Crabs. Okay, so crabs, lobsters, and there's a sea urchin as well. These are a little bit different process. So what I have to do for these is that I ink and print as much as I can, which is about half of it. And then the other half I can't print because the paper just physically can't touch it because of the dimensionality and because it's so hard. The shell is so hard. And so what I have to do for the rest is I have to dismantle it, take it all apart, the crab itself. And then I set the pieces aside and I ink each piece separately and then reassemble the crab onto paper. The crab takes about a week or two. The lobster 3 weeks. The sea urchin was pretty mind-numbing. I forget how long that took. Oh, the video went out. Can we go back to Heather's screen?
She is bringing up a slideshow, which will be a little bit better than what I'm doing walking around.
Okay. Yeah. There's my stamp, my uncle. There's the octopus. The ink splash, that's just simply me, after it's all done, splashing sort of haphazardly a brush loaded with ink onto the paper. It's kind of scary. You can practice all you want, but it never comes out the same way. But I like the effect of it. And we saw this one. We saw this one as well. These are all, really large pieces. Oh, the shark. Shark's really difficult using Sumi ink, and this was printed in Sumi ink as well. It's the shark has. I don't know if you've touched a shark, it feels like sandpaper. It feels like a cat's tongue, as sharp one way and smooth the other way, and like you can literally pour a bucket of ink on a shark and press paper on it, and nothing will transfer. You'll still have a new sheet of paper. So what I had to do was modify the ink. I used a thinner sheet of paper, and the ink I had to make considerably thicker. And basically, like when you grind Sumi ink, you have your Sumi stick, and you grind that with water. But instead of using water, I used more Sumi and grind it into that several times, and it made it thick enough to actually print. And crab, you saw that one. The squid. So our most popular pieces are usually cephalopods, octopus, squid, nautiluses, things like that. For the squid, well, this particular squid anyway, I really wanted to print it in a slightly angled perspective. So if you look at the triangular mantle, the top area, they're not even, they're not flat. One's kind of angled into the background a little bit. And things like that give it a bit more dimensionality. Playing with the tone, you can see like one side is lighter than the other. That makes it a bit more 3D looking instead of just a flat tone, a flat black tone. Playing with tone is I think is very important, especially with creatures that have smooth skin, unlike fish with scales. But we do that with fish as well. Next, seahorse. Yeah, same process. So honestly, it's the same process. Oh, here's that paper nautilus. So this isn't the typical nautilus that you see. This one's called a paper nautilus. It's also known as the argonaut. And it's a really, really fragile shell, and there's a pelagic octopus inside it. I believe only the females make the shells, but we were really lucky to get this one. I'm well connected with marine biologists all around the world, and this one was found inside of the belly of a bluefin tuna that a scientist on board a commercial boat just happened to cut open to see what the stomach contents, to study it. And she found this, and she got excited, and she called me or sent me a message through the satellite thingy, and to meet me at the dock, or her at the docks to pick it up. So we're very, very fortunate to get that one. Next. Oh, this one is a bit more of a ambitious piece, I guess. It's really large. It's a bluefin tuna. But so we printed the tuna, and I thought, that's fine and all, but like I love creating scenes, not just a fish centered on the paper, but scenes. And so the person who caught this was talking about like all the kelp forest, the kelp patties around, and the anchovies, the bait fish that they were using, and that they saw the tunas chase. So I decided to create a scene, albeit it's a much more peaceful scene that they were describing, but a scene nonetheless. And Opa. This one's really interesting. In Japanese, it's called akamambo. It kind of looks like the mambo, the mola mola, except it has a tail. Yeah, it's a really strange fish. It looks like a gigantic chickadee. I don't know. It's a real trip. It lives really deep down. It's usually bycatch from the tuna fleets. Pretty neat. It's I tried to get the smallest one possible. They usually range average like 150 pounds, and it wouldn't fit my paper. So we calculated it out and figured that it had to be 70 pounds for it to fit the paper. And we were lucky we got the 70 pounder fish to do it. This one, so we created two of these similar in composition, and the client had asked for a sort of romantic scene between two octopus. I think they were newlyweds. And so, yeah, we created two octopus sort of interacting with each other, surrounded with kelp. Oh, so this is an example of one of the human portraits. So you'll see their face, his side of his face is printed just like we would with a fish. This is us using white sumi. And then we printed, like the headgear and his quilted parka, much the same way we would do it with a fish. But his story, so he's an Alaskan tribes member. He's a chief, I believe. In fact, he's running for town mayor. But he's part of the Unanga tribe. And I didn't know this, but like a lot of us, I think most of us, especially in this meeting, are aware that Japanese Americans were interned during World War II. I didn't know until I went to Alaska that Japanese weren't the only people that were subjected to that. Apparently, Native Alaskans were as well, in smaller numbers, but albeit, same thing. Apparently, they were removed from their homes and their businesses and transported somewhere else for their safety, is what the official word is. But apparently there was a lot of great suffering, a lot of deaths, because they were dropped into like an abandoned sardine factory, is what I remember. And his tribe is on an island, and it's very different from the rest of Alaska. There are no trees there, no trees, no large animals. And so when they were transported over there, all of a sudden they're surrounded by trees, things that they've never seen before, animals that they've never seen before, beasts that can kill them. And so they had to really like start over and relearn how to live their lives. So for him and his tribe, I really wanted to represent that resiliency. And so what he's wearing is the traditional hunter's outfit that they wear when they go out in canoes and well, not canoes. What did they? It kind of looks like a canoe. I don't know what it's officially called, but where they go out and hunt marine mammals. But it's quilted. It's quilted out of the guts of a marine animal, and it's waterproof. It's pretty neat. But each quilt, so I decided for him to not just to represent him but represent his tribe's resiliency, is to have each quilt of that parka have the indigenous botanicals that are on the island. And if you ever go there to Dutch Harbor, to Unalaska, like it's really, really, it's a harsh place. It's very windy. And so all the plants are very, very hardy, really resilient, just like the people. Yeah. So this is probably my favorite human portrait. So this is a woman. She is the survivor of sex trafficking. She was sold off when she was 12, and she escaped the world when she was 18. Yeah, and so, and this happened in Mexico. She was working, I guess, in Tijuana, and when she was telling me her story, like I was pretty ignorant to the whole. I mean, I still am to the subject. You know, I read articles in the newspaper and shake my head and think, oh, you know, that's awful. But you know, actually hearing her story from her, you know, her words is pretty different. And so I really struggled. You know, we print the face first, and then we really think about like how to approach their story and how her character, her personality. And this one, this one took the longest. I really struggled with how to portray her because it seemed like it's really powerful. It's really sensitive. It's really awful. And it wasn't until I was with my son at the park, and I was watching him play, and I was playing with other kids, and you know, they're a bunch of dandelion seed puffs, and they would all pick them up and make a wish, some frivolous wish, and they would blow on it. You know, and I thought about her. I thought about, she was taken as a child, and all the childish, frivolous wishes that I'm sure she would love to have made, but wasn't able to. So we decided to turn her into a dandelion. So if you look closely, her hair is composed of just, I mean, I don't know how many there are. There's hundreds, thousands maybe of dandelion seeds that we printed one at a time. Dandelion flowers and leaves adorn her. Yeah. And lastly, this is a really neat story. So this is another indigenous tribes member, and he is part of the Siletz tribe, one of the elders. And a lot of his peers asked me to, or recommended that I go meet him, and because he has a wonderful story to tell. And I was like, okay. And in my head, in my ignorance, like I thought about like, oh, he's going to tell me about land being stolen away, or this or that, and other grievances. And so when I met him, before he even like said hello or anything, we sat down on the porch, and there's long silence. It was really awkward. And then he opens up and he says, "Hi, Dwight, I'm gay." I was like, okay, like, I don't care. But he took me, I got caught off guard. I wasn't expecting him to say that. And so I just blurted out, "Oh, you must have had a really rough childhood." And he says, "No, that's actually exactly what I want to talk to you about. I never was teased within the nations." I was like, "What? How is that possible?" You know, I have gay friends, and you know, they've all had a hard time. And he explains to me that there's a shared indigenous word amongst many of the tribes, and it translates as two spirits. And what that describes is that a person who's gay, lesbian, trans, non-binary, they're referred to as two spirits because it's a body that contains both the spirit of a man and a woman. And instead of being ostracized and ridiculed like in mainstream culture, they're considered such a rarity that they're celebrated instead. I was like, wow, I've never heard of such a thing. That's so neat. It's such a small twist in perspective, and all of a sudden it's very inclusive. And so he he was a lot easier to think of how to print. So we printed his face, and he loves weaving baskets. That's what he does for a living, and that's something that he's picked up from his grandmother. And it's usually women that do the weaving. The men don't do it, and so you'll see like weaving the basketry, the head weaving, the braids in the back, the braids in front of his chest that kind of look like, you know, hair braids, but they're made out of basketry to represent the female side. And then the males, the men typically wear the eagle feathers during the ceremonies. They're very elaborate, and so I included eagle feathers, trimmed one, as well as like the ones that he likes to adorn himself with, to represent the male side of him. And on his shoulders are ferns, and those are the ferns that he uses for the basketry. And this all sort of, you know, started from printing fish, and then I don't know, just, it's not that I ever get bored of printing fish. It's just me wanting to see what else I can do. This is a striped bass. Striped bass have stripes all along the side of its body. You know, it's easy to lift up the print and then add stripes afterwards, but I think it always looks best. It looks way more natural and better if I were to you know, thicken up the ink and paint in stripes onto the fish itself, because the has over and it looks a lot better. Yep.
Okay. All right. I just kind of stopped it because it's 6:45 right now, and then we do have quite a few questions here too, but actually, like, if I can ask a question, when there is a multiple number of fish, are you actually having a multiple number of fish on the same time, or like using the same one for this and then over and over? Like, you
So
know,
when I print a school of fish, for example, like that tuna, it's
Mhm.
all done in different sessions, separate sessions. So I'll print the main subject first,
Mhm.
or whatever is in the foreground, I print first. In that case, it was the tuna, and then I would block all that off using paper, and then during my second session, I printed the kelp. So the kelp looks like it's behind the tuna, and then on a third session, separate day, I would block out the kelp and print the anchovies and whatnot, and the smaller fish behind the kelp and behind the tuna. So for that one, it's 3 different sessions. I print. I don't like printing several fish all at the same time. I prefer printing one at a time. It's slower, but there's a lot more control over what I'm doing. Because, you know, if you imagine a large sheet of paper and me trying to like match it to the school of fish on the table, it can get pretty tricky. As opposed to me doing it one at a time, it's a lot easier. It's just more time consuming. That's all.
Also, what kind of paper do you use?
Oh, so it's all different versions of washi. Specifically kozo. You can use Korean hanji, Chinese hanzi. It's all the same paper, same materials. I know Westerners call it rice paper. It bugs the hell out of me. Don't call it rice paper, please, because it's not made out of rice. It's made out of mulberry. Yeah, it's the same type of paper that you use for calligraphy.
Everybody wants to know how you acquire fish, also how you pick a subject, and then also, do you fish yourself for the printing?
I fish myself, but very rarely do I use the fish that I catch for printing. Like I just don't fish enough to do it, I guess. I actually, well, that's not true. Like yesterday, my son and I, we went salmon fishing. We caught some, or he did, and he was so happy about it that we spent all night printing fish before washing them off to fillet. That's a rare occurrence, though. The vast majority of our fish are supplied, given to us from commercial fishermen, the captains, the crews, the scientists. Yeah, I rarely buy fish anymore. The Department of Fish and Wildlife, they often donate fish as well. If I'm looking for something specific, let's say someone says, "Oh, I really want a print of a giant Pacific octopus or something." Luckily, I already have a couple in my freezer. But if I didn't have one, it's easy to just make a couple phone calls to the people I know, because I know quite a few, and they'll FedEx one over.
So you talked about the fish that your son got, and then did you say you fillet it? So like, do you usually eat them, or can you, or like?
Oh, totally. I wouldn't do this if I couldn't. So sumi, yeah, that would be a travesty. So sumi ink is water soluble. It washes out really easily. Even if you got it on your clothes, you could wash it out. In fact, if you have like really sturdy paper and you created a print and you put it in a washing machine or in a tub of water, the next day the print will be gone. So don't do that. I've done that. But it's water soluble. As far as I know, I've been told many times that it's non-toxic. It's purely it's carbon. And yeah, so like for example, if we catch a fish, I mean, like the Chinook salmon that my son caught yesterday, like there's no way I'm not eating that thing. And so we wash it off, fillet, skin it. Yeah, I mean, we eat stuff like that as sashimi all the time. As long as the fish is still cold, when I'm printing, I keep the room pretty cold with an air conditioner. And we're only printing for an hour or two anyway, so it's fine. But if like we do this with tuna down in California all the time, but if it's a fish that I don't like to eat, for example, carp, I've been raised on carp, not a big fan of it, but I'll either vacuum seal it and put it back into my freezer to use again, because carp is actually one of my favorite fish to print. And I have carp or other fish as well in my freezer that's like 4 or 5 years old, and they still don't smell. I take really good care of them. Yeah.
Oh wow! Actually, my uncle told me that he helped this carp, I guess, farmer. I don't know what you call it. And then at the end of the work, they served carp, its whole thing that was baked. And then he said he couldn't eat it. And it was like white and red and then gold. And then he was like, I can't eat that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can eat that either, but
yeah, I've had raw carp before. It's weird.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have self-portrait?
Oh no, I don't. My wife and my child have long been wanting me to create one altogether. We just have to figure out logistics, I guess. Like I would lay down. I would have. We've talked about it before, where I would try to like. They would print. I would have my hand over, and I don't know. Just sort of rub my face. I'm sure we can make it work, but we've talked about it since we've printed my wife and my child.
Mm.
There's no daddy.
So if you were to do that self-portrait, what would you put on the like a shoulder area, like other portrait that we just saw?
I don't know. It'd probably be fish related though. Fish and art in general, I guess, like art tools or something. I'm not sure.
You
I
said
first
that
want to think about like how to actually do my face. That's the hard part.
yeah.
If we succeed that, then we can move on to like how to embellish.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about printing separately with a different fish, but my hope is that you will actually have a fish on you when you do your self-portrait. Just
I could be hugging a fish.
that would be awesome.
I could be a mermaid.
Yeah,
Merman.
yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I think that's all the questions that we have. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so
It was
welcome.
wonderful. And then I'm sure like, yay. Thank you. Okay, so before Yoko-san fires me, I would like to do a group photo. So people who doesn't mind having your face out, could you turn your camera on so that we can take pictures to get picture together? Fix your hair, fix your makeup if you need to. Go find your fish. What should we say today instead of cheese? Gyotaku, fish, sushi? Sushi. Okay, so we'll make a smile with the sushi. Ready? Okay. よこさんいいですか？はい。3, 2, 1. Sushi! Yay! Okay. Hi. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. And then Dwight, thank you so much. And the Minnesota Marine Art Museum, thank you. It's a really nice drive to go to that museum. So please, please, please visit. It's a gorgeous building as well. So
it's really
yeah,
pretty.
please visit the museum too.
We
All
love
right.
it.
We'll
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dwight.
Of course. You're welcome.
All right. Good night.